Greenfield, Superintendent Galvan here with Superintendent Story Time, and today I get to read to you a sports book on basketball, and it's called Game Changer, the John McLendon and the Secret Game. So this is actually a true story as well, and it offers a slice of history when it comes to basketball and people of color who were on the basketball court. So this account is going to be something that you'll be able to listen and learn from history. And it's written by John Coyne, illustrated by Randy DeBurke. So, gracias a mi comunidad de Greenfield por acompañarnos. Hoy vamos a leer otra historia de celebrar diversidad y cultura. Y esta historia es sobre baloncesto o basquetbol. Y este se llama Game Changer. Y sobre la vida de un señor que se llama John McLendon en el juego secreto. Este es sobre el basquetbol y de la historia del basquetbol y de las personas de color y cómo jugaron en el juego, en el pasado y en la historia. So vamos a leerlo a ver lo que podemos aprender juntos. So let's go ahead and read this story and let's see what we can learn together. Game Changer is the name of this book. All right, so here we go. Who are you? What are you? Why are you here on this earth? Where are you going? Questions to ponder. On Sunday, March 12th, 1944, at 11 in the morning, when most people were still at church, a group of basketball players who thought they were the best in the state of North Carolina piled into two cars. The members of the Duke University Medical School team knew they were playing a game, but they didn't all know where they were going or who their opponent would be. The drivers around the deserted streets of downtown Durham to make sure nobody was following them. Before they crossed over to the other side of town, the players covered the windows with quilts so they wouldn't be seen. When the cars stopped, the players pulled their coats over their heads and walked through the women's locker room into a gymnasium. Before them stood a timekeeper, two referees, and the starting five of the North Carolina College of Negroes. The Eagles, under their young coach, John McLendon, had 19 wins and only one loss. But because of segregation, they were prohibited from playing against white teams. On this day, the Eagles were going to break that prohibition. Coach McLendon, who learned basketball from James Naismith, the game's founder, stood to the side with his wife Alice and their two children. McLendon believed that basketball could change people's prejudices, and he wanted his children present to see that change. The two teams warmed up at opposite ends of the basketball court. Players glanced down to size up one another, and then they turned away. Eventually, there was nothing left to do but play ball. So you see the black people on this side and the white people on this side as they got ready to play basketball. The game started slowly, but with the dropped passes and shots clanging off the rim. Players on both sides, some of whom had never been this close to a person of a different color, were hesitant to touch or even bump into one another. The Duke team of Jack Burgess, Dick Simmons, Homer Sieber, Dave Hubble, and Dick Thistlethwaite took the lead. They had all played college ball and were strong and experienced. They ran their three-man weave, executed give and goes, and launched set shots. This was a game as most people knew it, basketball of the present. The young Eagles gradually settled into their game. They applauded the pressure defense they'd learned from Coach McLendon. George Parks and Henry Big Dog Thomas grabbed rebounds and fired outlet passes to Aubrey Stanley, Floyd Cootie Brown, and James Boogie Woogie Hardy. They raced up and down the floor in McLendon's innovative fast break style that emphasized attacking the basket. This was basketball the white players had never seen. The Duke players breathed hard and grabbed their shorts. They've never imagined the game at this pace. As they gasped for breath, the Eagles, who were in excellent condition because of McLendon's drills, made basket after basket after basket. The Duke players were witnessing something they had never seen: basketball of the future. When the game ended, the players were shocked by the score. The Duke team had outscored the Eagles. The Eagles thought the Dukes had 44 and the Eagles 88 points. It was a stunning display of basketball. There was no question about which team was the best. They beat us real good. They beat us real sharp, Jack Burgess said. What happened next was even more remarkable. The two teams played another game, but this time the black and white players played together to even up the sides in each side of the game with a game of shirts and skins, so they mixed up their teams. Meanwhile, word spread around campus that something was happening at the gym, so students climbed up on the window ledges and pressed against the glass to see what was happening. 19 years before Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, and 3 years after Jackie Robinson broke the color line in Major League Baseball, black players and white players worked together as teammates in an illegal game in segregated North Carolina. George Parks of the Eagles said later that this game was just God's children horsing around with the basketball. Afterwards, the Eagle players invited the Duke players back to their dormitory. They sat around and talked about the game and everything else, the way basketball players should do that. When it was time for the Duke players to go, everybody agreed on a plan. They pledged they would keep the game secret to protect one another and Coach McLendon, who would have been fired, or much worse, if people found out he was mixing blacks and whites. A reporter from the Carolina Times, Durham's black weekly newspaper, heard about the game, but he agreed not to publish the story at McLendon's request, since the Ku Klux Klan was active and considered race mixing a crime punishable by death. Jack Burgess did write a letter to the family in Montana. We played basketball against a Negro college team. We sure had fun, and I especially had a good time. For most of those fellows playing with me were Southerners, and when the evening was over, most of them had changed their views quite a lot. These players had been the future, but it would take time for everybody else to see it. 22 years later, in 1966, Texas Western started 5 black players against a heavily favored all-white team from Kentucky for the national championship. Texas Western triumphed, and when they did, news spread around the country. The era of segregated big-time basketball was ending. Years later, John McLendon, who was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame for his pioneering coaching career, said, "I just wanted to further the game. That idea that we all played basketball, that we all played it really well, and that we should all be playing it together." Today, people don't even think twice about players of different skin colors competing one another on the court. But it wasn't always that way. It took courage to make that future a reality. Coach John McLendon and those brave players who rose to the challenge in the secret game were way years ahead of their time. And that's the story. So it's game changer. So can you imagine if they had not had that secret game? Would basketball be the way it is? It took a long time for people to change their views about mixing white people and black people. So thank you so much for joining me today. This is a really great book to kind of celebrate the diversity and where we are today as an American culture. So I am Superintendent Galvan, sending you a great big bear hug from our family to yours.